What's up, Wesley? Welcome back to the Charleston Wesley podcast, where we make ministry available on the go. I'm Ava, and I'm the Wesley Worship Intern.
And I'm John, and I serve as the pastor of the Wesley Foundation, and we have a very special guest joining us for this discussion. It is, drum roll, that's your drum roll. It is Reverend Brent Dehlbom, who is the board chair of the Wesley Foundation.
Woo!
Hey, Brent.
Hi, guys.
How are you doing?
Great.
Good.
Great. Happy to be here.
Good. Glad that you're here. We're going to fly by the seat of our pants a little bit, but that's okay. Would you want to tell the listeners a little bit about you, where you're currently serving, why you like the Wesley Foundation, and I don't know, whatever else you think is relevant?
Sure. I'm serving at St. Andrew's Parish United Methodist Church out in West Ashley, and been down here for this is my middle of my third year. Serving down here in the Charleston district, and I've always just loved youth and students, and you know, I've been a coach, I've been a teacher, I've been all kinds of.
You were a principal, right?
Ways. I was a principal too, yeah, and all before I became a pastor, and I worked in youth groups, and now, you know, getting to serve with the older students, I just enjoy it. I love their energy and enthusiasm.
Man.
And the way y'all love the Lord.
It's a good time. It's a good time. Appreciate that. I have an important question for both of you to kind of kick us off. This season brings us the opportunity. I like dramatic pauses. This also, Brent looks very stressed. This season brings us the opportunity to do many things that we just are not able to do throughout the year. And I think that one of the best parts of this season is that it allows us to watch certain movies that you cannot watch for the rest of the year. So an important question I have for y'all is, what is your favorite Christmas, holiday, wintry movie that you just look forward to seeing every December? You have one, Brent?
My wife loves Home Alone.
Okay.
We watch that every year.
Mm-hmm.
And,
you know, Hannah hates Home Alone.
And another one that's not so
sad.
great that I probably shouldn't recommend to anyone, but it's Christmas Vacation.
Oh,
That's good. I like that one. No, we're in campus ministry.
Don't watch it. Don't watch it.
I like Die Hard, personally.
Die Hard. Is that even really a Christmas movie?
He sparks this debate every year.
Here it is the writer of the movie has explicitly stated
that it
is important that the events that happen at the tower, the Takanomi Tower, happen during the holiday season. And so I feel like that inherently makes it's an important plot point, you know, because without the Christmas season, he has no reason to come visit his wife. And also there's no reason for all those people to be there. I mean, like, it just all comes together. And the fact that at the end, they get to spend Christmas together. If only we were at the segue point, I was going to just say, like, oh, that just shows Christian love. But we're not in the segue. I need your answer, Ava. I'm not going to sleep.
I like all the, like, Disney Christmas movies. Does that make sense? Like Mickey's Once Upon a Christmas, and like all of the ones where they have basically like the Disney characters do like the Scrooge story, or like all of those. Where there's one with Goofy that I keep thinking of, Goofy and Max. Mm-hmm. So yeah, all of those. Okay,
I'll accept that. I have a few that came to mind. I mean, Die Hard is actually calling to me pretty heavily right now. I have a deep passion for A Christmas Story, which my wife also doesn't like. She doesn't like any of the movies that I like.
You'll shoot your eye out.
Yeah, it's just
That's
great.
a great one.
But why did that one become the one that they play all day? Do we know, like, why that became the chosen Christmas movie?
But that's the reason that I like it, is because my dad and I were morning people, and my brother and my mom are not. And so every Christmas, this is like the cruelest thing that my parents could have done. Every Christmas, I just had to be up for hours, not opening this because my brother and my mom needed to sleep in, and so it was terrible, and it was just terrible. And so my dad and I would watch Christmas Story, and like, man, we once watched it like twice in a row.
Here's what would make my Christmas: if we could get John one of those pink bunny suits.
Ooh,
If you could get it,
if you
get
could
one
get
in my
it,
size, I would wear it. But I do love that movie. I do also love How the Grinch Stole Christmas with Jim Carrey. I used to watch that movie religiously.
That one was kind of creepy.
Yeah, I think that's part of it.
We have a couple students in Wesley that know the line, every single word
really?
of the movie, and we
watched
it.
All?
Yeah, it's about, I think Kevin might.
Yeah, Kevin knows a lot of the lyrics too.
Yeah.
Or lyrics lines.
We watched it on a winter mission trip, and they just ad-libbed the whole thing for us. We didn't
Isabella
even need the dialogue.
Has a great Grinch impersonation.
Yeah.
Too. But my favorite movie of all time, not just Christmas, but it's my favorite movie of all time, is Love Actually. I don't know if you've ever seen that one.
I have.
Yeah, I just love that movie. And
Okay.
it takes place during Christmas. So,
Well, so then it is a Christmas movie, according to your Die Hard theory.
that's not a theory. That's just what the writer of Die Hard said. I mean, it makes sense to me. I think that is an important plot point, that it takes place at Christmas. And, you know, when you boil it down, isn't Christmas really just about actually love? Segue. Let's go. Ava, I'm going to hit you with the first question.
Oh.
How do you define love? And how does it differ? Differ. Okay. How does it differ from affection or compassion?
Okay. All right. Love. Okay. Love is unconditional,
Okay.
which I think differs from compassion or affection, because compassion and affection, I feel like, depend on the circumstance that you're in. Like, you can have compassion for a circumstance, you can have affection for a person when they do something like good for you or something, but love should be, I think, existent no matter when the time is or like what the circumstance is.
I like that.
But for an actual, it's hard to put like an actual like definition, like a couple words of like love is blank. Like that's why I feel like a lot of time I hear like love is additives, like patience or, well, it's patient. I don't know if patience is a additive, but yeah.
No, it is.
Okay, yeah.
That's where I was going to go with it, but I'm just not going to make you seem to be
sorry.
clever. I want all the thunder. Brent, how do you define love?
I would say, you know, when we're comparing it to affection and compassion, those are things that you feel, and love is not only what you feel but what you do. And so it's more of how we live in our whole lives and our actions and how we choose to live our lives.
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like it's perseverant, too. Yes. I mean, like, and kind of to your point about situational,
right.
Like, you know, my family has done some extremely annoying things, but, like, I love them despite it, you know? And, like, that's where the perseverant element of it comes in. But to Ava's point, you know, you said, like, love is patient. That's, like, biblical. That's 1 Corinthians 13. And, like, there's a whole bunch of adjectives that describe what love is, defines love. You know, patient, kind, no record of wrongdoings. I don't remember the rest of them. But
so we can end up loving people that we have no affection or compassion for.
Ooh.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
That's sick.
Also, that's sick, bro. But I also love that you brought in the verb component of love, because, like, you know, and I've, like, kind of described this often, and I usually equate my relationship with God with my relationship with Hannah, because, like, there's such a closeness in both of those relationships that, like, if I said that I loved Hannah but I didn't do anything with Hannah or for Hannah, then, like, I don't know if that's really love, because it's missing that verb component.
I like that.
And I'm gonna jump off script here and ask kind of a question of, like, what are ways that we can show love? And we can go with this, like, season of the year specifically, or just in general. Like, what do you think are some, like, good practices of love? for those special relationships.
Well, on the note of like love being unconditional, I would say forgiveness and kind of what you were saying earlier, not like holding on to the past or wrongdoings.
Mm-hmm. I would just kind of reiterate that, like, spending time with. And, like, I guess to take that even further, like, there is a sacrificial element of love where it's like, you know, I could play video games all day, and that's great for me, but there are people that I love that I should instead spend time with. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so, like, I'm sacrificing a very simple, like, silly desire in this example, but I mean, like, to love people does require resources and time and patience and sometimes peace.
Yeah. Giving your time and attention to someone.
Yeah.
So someone comes to ask you a question and you put down your phone and you actually look at them and talk to them.
Yeah. Why do you look at me when you said that?
I was just imagining you asking me a question.
Oh, okay.
So,
for sure.
Kind of sticking in those definitions, do you find it easy or hard to show love, and why or why not?
For me personally, I think it depends on the, I don't know if type of love is the way to word this, but like with friends, I feel like it's easy for me to be like, oh my gosh, I love you so much, you're so fun. But then, like there's other times where I feel like if you don't know the person loves you back, that can be a harder time to like express certain things, or if you're not sure on the same page. Or if you've had like, if I just got in a fight with like my brother, I don't know if right after that I'm gonna go up to him and be like, I love you. I'm still mad at you, but I love you. Like we just So
So depending on circumstances.
Which goes against what I said earlier. But like,
no, because he's not saying whether you do or not. He's saying, is it hard or is it easy? And sometimes it is harder, I think. And, you know, when someone has hurt you or offended you, and to be able to forgive and move on, you know, which we're called to do, that does show love, but sometimes it's hard. And in fact, we all struggle with that in some way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And also, I think throughout my time and development as a Christian, it has become easier than it used to be.
Yeah.
You know, it's more natural, I guess. I'd say.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, like, when I was your age, Ava, I was really, really, really struggled to show compassion and, like, affection or, like, any of those, like, related words, right? And I was really awkward and uncomfortable with all those things. And it didn't matter if it was, like, in, like, you know, familial setting, a romantic setting, or, you know, a friend setting. Like, I just felt awkward with those things. But I will say the longer I've kind of walked with Christ, the more and more it is easier to, like, feel more comfortable with all that.
I would say, like, too, for me, like, I feel like it's easy for me to show love through action, but with words it's not. So I guess that's another thing I meant, too, is, like, depending on how I am showing that love can change on whether it's easy or hard. Yeah. Like, it's easy for me to, I think, go pick someone up if I have my car on hand and like drive them somewhere so they don't have to walk, but like saying the word equivalent of all of that, no. So I think it depends on how I'm showing that love too.
Well, and I think love languages are an important thing to to be aware of. Have you like done a lot of work with that?
Not a lot, but I know what you're
they're
talking
fun.
about. I mean,
you should take the quiz.
I've taken
I like it personally, but I mean, you know, this idea that like we all receive love in more defined ways, and we can all express it in more defined ways. You know, I think it's helpful to understand how the dynamics can play.
It is helpful. I could write my wife a love letter and whatever, you know. But if I wash the laundry, you know, then that's like, wow, you love me.
Oh yeah.
See, my love language is words of affirmation. And Hannah She just doesn't understand how to speak kindly. And once I said to her, I was like, some people would call me charming. You don't call me anything. And she got a good kick out of that. But it's funny, like I love Hannah dearly, and I love college students dearly, and neither of them know how to use words of affirmation. So I'm just cursed to love the things that can't love me back.
Well, you are awesome, John. We love you.
I appreciate it. Yeah. Well, and I think I've talked about this, like how the podcast has been helpful for my words of affirmation need. I'm gonna offer a quick story about how college students just are generally not good at words of affirmation. I had just spent a week in Nicaragua playing, like, we had just had a very good mission trip. We're in the airport, and I'm just trying to get everyone back into the country. Something happened with the debit cards, and so there was a little bit of, like, snafus with that, and so I was trying to figure it out. And Ethan Goswick looks at me, and I'm, like, sleep-deprived, just want to be home. And then, I have to go to Duke. I have to be in Duke 40 hours from when I'm in Managua, Nicaragua, to start a week of school.
True.
And Ethan Goswick goes up and he's like, John, you're not a terrible director. And I was just like, goodness gracious. What love is this? Sorry, that was tangent, but I just needed to share my burden. But circling back to your point, Brent, is I do think that, like, it has grown easier.
Yeah. Especially,
like, the more my understanding of grace, actually, has really revolutionized my understanding of love. Because, like, I mean, grace is, like, empathy plays a huge role in grace. And so this understanding of, that person who is difficult to love, well, they got a lot going on in their lives. And, like, it's not really on me. Like, I need to understand that. I need to kind
makes all the difference.
Yeah. I have an interesting question now that's not on the script, because I just like to...
Here we go off script again. You first, Ava.
Yeah, you first. This concept of tough love.
Yeah.
Ava looks like she's about to cry. I don't know. What are our thoughts on it? Do we think that there is such a thing as tough love? And is there a way to do that in a Christ-like way? And how do we measure, are we just being vindictive, or are we actually just trying to be, like, constructive to the individual? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it totally depends on what your version of tough love is, I think.
Yeah.
Like, if yours is like, I can't keep picking you up with my car because you keep running out of gas because you're not paying attention to your speedometer, that's, I guess, love in the sense of, like, I want you to be better. I want you to learn from this. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it depends on how you define tough love. Because if your tough love is, like, a punch, then, like, that's not how you, like, wrap your head around it. Like,
you're not in agreement on that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of different definitions, and people will say this is tough love in a given situation, right?
Yeah.
So someone kicks their child out of their house because they got pregnant at a young age or some stupid thing like that, right? And they're saying this is tough love. That's just brutal. Is all that is. That's not love. Mm-hmm. And so I have a hard time with those sorts of questions because of the definition of what we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
So if we got down into some specifics, and then we could say, all right, what would Jesus do in this situation, right?
Yeah, because I don't... What would be an example of Jesus showing tough love? Like the table flipping, or like...
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, I think Jesus shows a lot of tough love, but usually it's in, like... And we talk about this a lot on the podcast, but, like, the ministry of rebuke.
Oh,
it's just like where he's just like, no, you're actually wrong. Like, like I do have the final word on this, and no, James and John, you cannot sit at my right hand in heaven.
Right?
Yeah.
So, and I guess that's what I was saying.
Well, and imagine the Peter when Jesus was asking him, "Do you love me?"
Yeah.
Over and over.
Yeah.
that had to be crushing, right?
Yeah.
That was a form of tough love too.
Yeah. Well, and I guess that's why I brought it up, and that's why I kind of prefaced it, is that I feel like a lot of people do use tough love as a reason to be vindictive.
Mm.
Yeah, is they're just like, oh, I'm just giving you time. And it's like,
Right.
no, you're actually kind of being mean and like cruel even in some regards.
Sure.
But I do believe in accountability too.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's kind of a weird thing. And I don't know. I also think that I've seen kind of a rise in toxic, tough love.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Where people think that they're doing something right, and it's like, no, you're not. You're actually just being extremely...
That's just hurtful.
Yeah, and destructive.
Yeah.
Demeaning even in some cases.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was off script, but...
it's an interesting question.
Yeah, and then I have one other question. It kind of goes along with Brent saying that it's a verb, that love is an action as well as an emotion and a feeling. Is it a choice to love an individual?
I would probably say no. I don't know. I think you can actively choose to try to love somebody.
Yeah.
But I also think that there's circumstances and when you can't help loving somebody.
Yeah.
Like if my father Richard would never do what I'm about to say, but if for some reason he decided to like go in and like spray paint my bedroom like I don't even know, like neon yellow. Like that doesn't mean I'm not kind. That's
What
like the worst
weird example. Land this plane.
I like it.
I like
Also,
Yellow specifically.
what a healthy relationship with your father. That's the example you go for.
Well, I didn't want to get too dark.
Well, sure, but it just
Like if he could like murder my dog, but like I didn't want to.
How do you go from spray painting your room to murder of dog? Anyway, land the plane.
Okay, if he murdered my dog, I would probably still deep down love him, and even if I told myself like no, don't. I don't know. But then at other times, I think there's people that you don't maybe naturally love, that you have to tell yourself, I need to learn to love them. I need to, like, Yeah, I don't know if any of that made sense, but that's what I'm going with.
I guess I started thinking about the different words for love that they had in the ancient world, right? And whether it's, eros, phileo, or agape, or... and so I think people sometimes they're surprised by an affection that they feel for someone else, and it just sort of comes on. The falling in love kind of idea. And I don't know that if we have a lot of choice in that when that happens. But the kind of love I think that we're talking about, agape love, the love of Christ, we choose. Jesus doesn't require us to live this way, right? He offers us a relationship in grace and in love, and we choose to live in that. And when we choose to live in that, we're choosing to live in love. So in that way, I would say, yes, it's a choice.
And before we move too far, would you be able to offer a quick crash course on like the words of love that you're just talking about, just for the folks who haven't heard?
So eros would be like that physical love. Phileo is like a brotherly love, and agape is the godly love, I guess.
There's a fourth one in there. I can't remember what it is. C.S. Lewis has a good book on this.
Yeah, I can't remember.
But thank you for offering that. Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that it is a choice. However, it is a natural choice, meaning that we are made to.
We're made to be that way.
We're like, just like you said, like we choose to be in a relationship with God.
Yeah.
Which is really saying we want to be who we were always supposed to be. You know what I'm saying? And so in some ways it's like you're choosing to be what you always were.
You can choose to swim upstream or float downstream too.
Yeah.
One is a lot easier way to live than the other.
Yeah.
Or more natural.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which brings me back to Barbie at the end.
What?
Yeah, I'm just jumping ship.
That is
but no, listen. At the end,
Of course it does.
Listen, I talked about this at the beginning of the school year, Ava, and you've already forgotten. And this is like arguably one of the best ones. Have you ever seen Barbie, Brent?
Yes.
Okay. The end, where she's talking with her creator, and she says, "I want to be part of the people who make meaning," which is like I think one of the best definitions of like why we should choose to be Christians is because we're people that make meaning, not the thing that is made.
Nice.
Right? But she says, like, I want to be human, or I want to be a part of them. And then the creator says, like, well, you always were. Yeah. You're choosing something that has always actually been there.
Yes.
And I think that that's, like, the perfect example of, that's like, good. Understanding our creation in the eyes of God is that, like, we were always in relationship with God. It is just now this choosing to be aware of it and to acknowledge it and being like, yeah, he is always there, and we don't believe that he just shows up once you get dumped. Like, he's been there before you even were. Yeah. He was in relationship with you.
Yeah, there are really two kinds of people. There are those who are walking close with Jesus and those who Jesus is walking close with.
Mm. Right? That'll preach. That'll preach.
That's good.
Which are you, Ava? Talking about your dad that way. So, talking about Jesus, this time of year, it's kind of his big deal. His birthday's coming up. Mm. And we're in Advent. Advent is this season of waiting. The 4 Sundays that lead to Christmas, which is announcing the birth of Christ. And as the listeners know, if they've been listening to the previous episodes, each week, each Sunday, we add a different emotion, adjective. Well, there's a lot of different ways to describe them, but a different theme to the week. And this week, we're talking about love. And so, Brent, I want to kind of turn it over to you for a minute to talk about the role that love plays in the Christmas, Advent, nativity story, all that. And why do you think it's important for us to remember it every year?
Okay.
This is the one part that he did prepare for. Everything else is just off the cuff.
So, we're talking about Advent. This is a season when we anticipate not only the birth of Christ, but the coming of God's love into a world in a way that forever changes us. So what role does love play in the Christmas story? Love it's the heartbeat of the Christmas story. Think about this. God's love took on human flesh, becoming one of us, vulnerable, as a baby in a manger. John Wesley would remind us that this incarnation, God choosing to come to us, is a radical act of divine love. It goes far beyond words and promises. It's God choosing to leave heaven behind and come down and cross every boundary so that he can reach us. And so in Wesleyan thought, love isn't just a feeling, it's an active, transforming force in the world. For Wesley, the love revealed in Christ is an invitation to grow in holiness, to experience perfect love. That's the love that casts out fear and enables us to live fully in God's presence. Through the birth of Jesus, we see a God who reaches out to us in love to invite us into relationship. And it's a relationship that heals what's broken and creates wholeness in us, right? Mm-hmm. So love isn't just part of the Christmas story. It is the Christmas story.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It really is. And so when we tie that into Advent themes in general, during Advent we wait in anticipation for Christmas, but not just for Christmas. We wait also for the second coming when love will fully reign in a world that's finally made whole. And Wesley emphasized grace upon grace, and the idea that our journey with God moves us closer to perfect love, to a place where we reflect God's love more deeply. So Advent is a time to remember that God's love is active and moving in our lives and in the world, even as we wait for it to become perfect. Love is what compels us during this season to reach out to others, even sometimes when we don't want to, right? To reflect Christ's love in our communities and to embody the message of peace and hope and justice in the world. And so as Wesleyan Christians, we see love as the fruit of God's grace working within us, empowering us to love God and our neighbors as ourselves. So I'm hoping that during this Advent season we can all find new ways to open our hearts to God's love.
Amen. Let it preach.
I really liked how you tied this week's in with the other weeks. I don't think I've ever really thought of it a ton that way, but that's pretty cool.
That kind of has struck me, and I don't know if there's a reason for the order in which the Advent weeks go, because I've seen it done differently. I mean, in between churches.
It does go differently between churches.
And I've just never understood how love is not the ultimate one.
The one at the end, or
the one at the
first
end,
one,
or the beginning. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
Christ candle is what we light on Christmas Day.
Yeah.
And that goes in the center, and it's the intersection of joy, peace, hope, and love. But I just feel like, I don't know, love is just it transcends.
Where do you find joy, hope, and peace without love?
That's what I'm saying. Is I have been, well, I don't know. I was about to say something, but I actually do think that they all fit perfectly in an equal balance. Because I was going to say I have not been at peace, but I've been joyful. But I actually take that back, because I think that joyfulness is a requirement, or is a benefit of being at peace. And I feel at peace because I'm joyful. You see what I'm saying? And then I also feel at peace and feel joy out of the hope that's rooted in the love.
Yeah, so all of that, though, for me is because, and I'm happy that you asked me for this week.
Yeah.
Because for me, all of that is dependent on the love of Christ.
Yeah.
I don't get to participate in any of that if it's not for the love of Christ. And so, for me, that's the way I look at it. I would go with your idea that you spoke about a minute ago about it being sort of the penultimate part, and I'm not campaigning for love or anything. It's just a weird thing, but I feel that way about love as we talk about the different parts of the Advent season.
For this reason.
It's almost like you've heard me preach somewhere before.
Is love the pink candle?
No, it's joy.
Oh, that's joy?
Oh.
Yeah.
See, none of it
It's joy. Yeah.
What color is love? Is it?
It's just
They're
another,
all purple.
Yeah, they're all.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, they're all purple except for the joy candle is pink, and then like you said, we light the Christ candle
Which is white.
in the middle, which is white at the end.
Okay.
But I mean, they are all aspects of life in Christ. So.
Well, and it's it's kind of interesting too. I mean, John in one of his letters just clarifies that God is love.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is wild to think about, and it is also just kind of a redefinition of God and a redefinition of love. You know what I mean? Because if that is what he is, then that clarifies almost every action that he's ever done.
Right.
Because it was love, because it could not be love.
Right.
I have kind of said this a few times about hate, and that love and hate are just two mutually exclusive things. You cannot have both, and which means that God cannot hate things.
Yeah.
Which is not what the common, or I shouldn't say common, but that's not like a universal understanding.
Sure.
I mean, we even read a book a few summers ago for our book club, and the book said, God hates sinners. Which is just like, whoa.
Whoa, no.
Like,
no.
like that, he doesn't.
Yeah.
He's probably a little frustrated, but
yeah.
like, I mean, I've been frustrated with people that I love, but I never hated them.
I've seen picket signs and stuff where it's saying God hates things, and it just every time it gives me that same feeling of, ooh, nope.
Yeah. Well, it's just so irreconcilable. And when you were starting to talk about kind of the role that love plays in Advent, John 3:16, it doesn't say that God so enjoyed the world,
right?
Or God so had so much hope in the
That's
world,
right.
Or that God wanted peace in the world that He sent His only Son, but God so loved the world,
The whole reason.
Which kind of brings us back. Oh my goodness, this is kind of one. This brings us back to this concept of choice, right? Is that it was a choice on God's end.
It was.
Not just a passive thing, but an active thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think we get to a point where human words just don't.
Yeah.
Or just aren't enough.
Yeah.
And when we start talking about peace, love, joy, these things, and try to explain. I've listened to some of your podcasts before, and I think often you guys get to a point where it's God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't explain it.
Yeah. One element that I do want to lift up that I'd be kind of curious to hear your thoughts on. So, disclaimer: we are recording this episode before my child is born. And I just wanted that preface, which is why I'm kind of kicking the question to you, is, one of the things that's beautiful about the Nativity story is just the beauty of, like, the family forming.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you would be able to speak to it at all, but, I mean, you have kids. What kind of element, what facet of love is there when you are just given your child? Which is a big question. But, I mean, like, I'm struggling to even articulate what the question is. But, like, I think that it's important to realize that familial love is a component of the Nativity story.
That's cool.
And it's something that we do together. I mean, like, we do typically celebrate with our families. So, like...
It is, and let's not lose sight, too, that it's also a component of our love with God, right?
Yeah.
We call him our Father, Abba for a reason, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so, just for instance, my son lives downtown here now. He doesn't come out to church out there quite as often as he used to. But when he shows up and he's in church, and I'm thinking about God's love for me and for us, it's much easier for me to make that connection because my son, who I love so much, is right out there, right? And there is, when you have children, there is a different kind of love that is overwhelming, and you'll experience that you find nowhere else. It's not the same as the way you love your parents. It's not the same thing. And so when I think about that, and I can connect a little more to God's love for us, then that I think that what you're talking about really comes into play.
Well, and is it clarifying to you of God's love?
Yes,
okay.
Very much so. Not that I could ever approach, his love, but to understand and to feel that overwhelming love for your children, and then go back and think, oh, God loves me in that way, and even more.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
It really does change things around a little bit. Don't rush out and have kids.
Good preface or disclaimer there. Yeah, we're not advocating anything. That was more so a personal curiosity, I guess. I appreciate you sharing that. So, we understand that love is the heartbeat of this season, right?
Absolutely.
So, what should we do with that? You know, like, what are the things that we should be doing this time of year, knowing that love is an important component? How can we love better?
For me, recognizing that that's what it's about is the first step, right?
Yeah.
Like with any needed change, you have to realize that there's a change needed before you can do anything about it, right? So recognizing that it's all about love and making that decision that we talked about earlier to live into that love, then maybe some of the commercialism and some of the stuff isn't as important, you know, and you get down to some of the more important things and you show that love to people in action, in the way that you live. And you show God by the way that you live, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I would say that whole concept of, like, love your neighbor, so, like, no matter who they are, so if, especially at this time of year, so, like, if my neighbor annoys the heck out of me, still, like...
Sorry, neighbor. If you're listening.
Yeah. Well, no, they're fine. I really hope they don't. No, I don't know why they would ever find this podcast.
I don't know if this is a widespread podcast.
I'm not directing it at them, but yeah, if they're asking me to, like, I don't know, pray for them, do it, you know, or if they just want to chat for 5 minutes. And you can do that a lot also through, like, I love doing our service project with them in the wintertime because it's, like, a great time to show that love of Christ to people that might not be feeling that love at the Christmas time. So,
that's right.
Yeah, just the whole concept of, like, love your neighbor, love people.
That's a good point. There are a lot of people out there for whom this season is really difficult, right? And people are just struggling through it. And so reaching out and finding ways to help them through is a very loving thing to do.
I will, not to be like pro-commercialism of the Christmas season, but you know, I do think that there is love in gift giving if you do it out of love. You know, if you're just buying a gift for your coworker because it's like, oh, I got to, right? That's not it. But, like, I love finding a gift for Hannah, you know, and, like, I love, like, giving that, and, like, the Secret Santa that the staff does, like, I love that, because, like, you know, there's just that very basic component of just gift giving that can have love in it. But I do think that you need to kind of check yourself of, like, am I doing this because it's a societal expectation? Am I doing it because I just really love Brent, you know? And so I think that that's an important component there.
I guess there is biblical precedence for that too in the Christmas season, right?
Yeah, there is.
The gift giving.
Yeah, there is. And were you gonna say something? No. I also think that, like, I hate to say it this way, because, like, every Sunday is equally important from a church perspective.
Yeah.
But, like, if, like, you want to have a fruitful Christmas experience, like, you should make a point to use Advent the way it's intended.
Yeah.
Which is by going to church every Sunday. And, like, I like, one of the things that I love to do is I love to read Luke for Advent, because it's 24 chapters, and so you read a chapter a day, and on Christmas Eve you're done.
Nice.
Right? But just to prepare your heart and mind, I mean, that is a form of love. That is reaching out. That is trying to connect with, you know, God and understanding the season. And I do think that kind of clarifies a lot. And, you know, another interesting thing that, like, I don't necessarily think is going to be something that we see for much longer, but, like, Christmas cards. That's something that we just don't necessarily see right now as much of.
Yeah.
But like, what a simple way of just like loving, and like kind of what you said. You know, some people feel lonely, and getting a Christmas card could mean something. You know,
that's true.
So I think that it's not as complicated as we make it out to be.
Yeah. I agree. Well, it's like Ava said earlier. It's a matter of being present, right?
Yeah.
And just giving someone your attention.
Yeah. Now, I think the last question I have for us, you know, families, you gotta love them. Sometimes you don't like them. You know, not to make a joke of it, but like there are people who really struggle in their relationships with others and find it very hard to love people who are difficult, who you may have had a bad past, and is there any like just words of wisdom that we can offer up to anyone who's listening right now who's saying like, you know, maybe I don't want to spend Christmas with my dad or uncle or whatever, you know, like what can we say to them to offer some peace and maybe even some insight into how we can overcome that? Loving those who are difficult to love.
I think it depends, again, on the situation. What is the reason that they're difficult to love? Some people are actively abusive, and I'm not going to advocate that you go spend time with them. You know? So often loving is done better from a distance. Yeah. In some cases. And on the other hand, if it's just they just have that personality that bothers you, or they're just difficult in other ways, then I think Jesus was so adamant about forgiveness for us because he loves us enough that he knows that when we forgive, it sets us free, right? And so if we can let go of if we can find ways to let go of those issues, name them, and then let go of them, right? Then we can find ways to be more free ourselves in those relationships because we've let stuff go that was bothering us. So I think that's a key component.
Yeah, I've also found it very hard to be angry at people that I pray for. You know, I don't know. I find it hard to hold grudges.
That's true.
So I'll offer that up. Yeah, I mean, I think that just about sums up love. I do have kind of a lighthearted personal question to close this out on. Usually we do like Wesley memory moment, but instead, as I kind of opened up the episode with like the movie question, right, is that this season offers us, it makes it socially acceptable to do stuff that you just can't do in February or June, you know. What is something that you love to do that is unique to the Advent Christmas season?
I really wish you'd give me these questions ahead of time.
I just like to stress you out.
I have one.
Okay, thank goodness. Yeah.
So, and I don't sing.
Okay.
And I'll run people off if I do sing. I know someone sitting here at the table is a pretty good singer. Yeah.
Thank you.
But I love to go out with people caroling. Yeah. And you know, during the rest of the year, I don't go to people's doorsteps and with a group of people and sing songs.
Dude.
So,
dude. You know, this is random, but Vidia brought this up when she recorded. But her church, they do that for the folks in the senior home in Christmas.
Yes.
But then they also go out in July and do it again. And I actually kind of love that.
Oh, Christmas in July, huh?
They just go and they carol.
Cool.
But yeah, it is. Yeah, that is a very unique thing. Which I have actually a question. I feel like that is not done much anymore.
Caroling?
Yeah, nor is it really something that's done in South Carolina.
Yeah.
When you lived in other places, was caroling more of a thing, or is it always
It was
just
more of a thing.
Okay,
more of a thing. When there's snow on the ground, and up in North Idaho, there's snow on the ground. It gets dark at like 3:30 in the afternoon.
What else are you going to do?
So there's Christmas lights everywhere,
Okay.
and you go out and you sing.
Okay.
Yeah. Here, it's also we do more of the senior homes, and things like that. But
I did it once where we got in and out of a bus and we went to church members' houses and there's no snow or anything like that, and I was a youth and I thought it was cool, but
I was gonna say I did it in high school a couple times, but the problem is I don't think the people we'd go to really wanted to hear us sing for like 5 minutes while they awkwardly stood in the doorway.
Yeah, that's fair.
But maybe we just picked the wrong audience.
This could be. There was a truck driving around our neighborhood with a flatbed trailer behind it, and people were on it caroling, and so
like
they just
your neighborhood in West Ashley.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
So they just sort of drove around caroling in that way around the neighborhood. That was pretty cool. But they didn't stop. Knock on the door and the whole. Yeah. We're not going to leave until you give us some figgy pudding or anything like that.
All right, Ava, what do you love to do uniquely in this season? We're giving you plenty of time.
Everything I can think of is things I'm like, why can't I do this in March? Like I was thinking, I love cooking, so making things for like making cookies, Christmas cookies, or gingerbread house building or things like that. But
I'm gonna come to your defense real quick.
Yeah.
And just say that the reason you don't do that is because you have other things going on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Like the reason that you're able to do that over Christmas break is because you have a month of no job and no school.
Yeah, I love doing that, and I love anything crafty at the holidays, which I feel like there's just more crafty activities to do. So I do love that. Like making homemade gifts is always to me like a really good time and stuff like that. So.
And listening to Christmas music.
Yeah.
And we don't necessarily do that all year long.
Yeah.
Some people do. Some really crazy people do.
I'm just gonna out myself that as I've gotten older, I've become more of a Christmas person than I thought I would. I was always a Halloween person, and then I married Hannah, and I just fell in love with Christmas, and then she fell in love with Halloween.
Oh.
But dude, November 1st is I'm all right.
Yeah.
Here it is.
Now it's time for Christmas music.
And my favorite thing that I love is the Christmas trees.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! How did I forget about that?
I love Christmas trees, and specifically, I like ornaments.
Yeah.
And I'm really passionate about getting ornaments when we go to places.
Yes.
Because each ornament's like a memory.
That's what it is, decorating the tree now. It's just like memory after memory after memory. It's beautiful.
It's just super cool. And then I just really love to sit and enjoy looking at them and reading and and just listening to the music and
I love
the hot chocolate. All of that is my jam.
I know my grandmama also loves setting up the nativity scene. I think Reverend Dr. Vivia Fowler also talked about that too.
Yeah.
So I think that's a big one.
She had a great idea that I'm just so excited to incorporate in my family. I'm just going to offer it to you real quick.
Thanks.
So she'd set the nativity scene, and then she'd put the wise men on the other side of the house.
Yeah.
And then every day they'd move slowly closer. But then on Christmas Eve, she would hide Jesus. And then they had to go find Jesus.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, isn't that so cool?
That is cool.
Yeah.
We had up the church up in upstate. We had one lady who was just adamant about the wise men were not there.
Oh.
It's true. So we put them far east. We had the church, and then the next block was the parsonage. So we had 2 blocks. So we had the nativity scene here, and the wise men were far east over there, traveling towards.
Dude,
we did move them a little closer, a little closer.
I love weird, adamant hills that church members down.
This is the one.
And
it was fun.
I will say I appreciate biblical accuracy.
Yeah.
It's a good season.
It was pretty cool. But hiding the Jesus, I like that. You have to go find him. You have to go find Jesus.
Yeah.
It's always been right there.
All right, Pastor.
Okay.
All right.
Do you guys have anything else to add?
No? Go
All
out and
right.
love some people.
All right, well, that's what's up with love for our Advent series. If you guys have any questions, you can reach out to us at our email, which is wuw@wesleychs.org. And also, don't forget to like or follow on whatever platform you're listening to.
And if you want to learn more about the Wesley Foundation or learn more about us or get in touch with any of us, you can go to our website, which is wesleychs.org. You can also check us out on Instagram and Facebook. And with that, I'm going to pray us out. God, we thank you for your love, and we thank you for the opportunity to love like you do. Help us to love like you do. Help us to reflect on that love and help us to incorporate that love, not only in this season, but for the rest of our lives. Help us to be transformed by that and help us to transform. And God, we just give you thanks for all the good things that this season brings, and we just ask that you be with those who are struggling in this season. We love you, and you love us. And that is good news. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
We'll catch you next week.